Well, welcome to Linux, this amazing world where meanwhile I'm recording, my PC just stop or freeze up and I have record again. That's amazing. Welcome to this new episode. In today's episode we are going to cover services or demons. And services or demons allows to execute all the time process or commands or application. That means that, for example, we can execute a Node.js web server all the time without we have to execute a Node space I don't know, index.js. And this is pretty useful because allows to maybe management correctly or in a right way process. Yeah, as you can see, I am very fluent in the explanation because we already talked about it, and I am a hater because it's like a toxic relationship because I love I love Linux, but sometimes I don't know, I have to keep him out because he doesn't or its behavior is not good at all. So let's continue with that. In in the part that we already covered in the video, I already have the source code about the Node.js web server. So let's go back to the code. So my code is host or save on documents borrow web server, and as you can see, we have important commands like important file like server.js, package.json, and log.json that is related with the Node.js environment, and the Node module that handles the dependencies, and we are only using the express dependency. Maybe just to resume the commands that I already use, I start my project with npm init -i just to create the packet.json. After that, I just create my server.js and give it the source code that is this about. Well, we are using CommonJS because I'm pretty lazy and I am pretty lazy to move these to S modules. We are using Express, the port. This part is interesting because we are going to handle the environment using the service file, so this will be interesting. And the other part is maybe used mapping the root path using the get HTTP method, and the last one is the listen. Maybe I'm sorry if you are not familiar with Spanish. It's just maybe some boilerplate that I just generate using ChatGPT, so don't give it something important to that. So once we have already our source code or our application, let's create the .service file, and that .service file is maybe some instruction that we are going to use to tell to the system or the daemon handler, hey, I need to use this process, and just follow the instruction that I'm telling. So to create this, we are going to use, for example, web server dot service. And maybe something important that we can remember once we create this is just remember the three main section that is about unit. The other section is about service. Yeah, we have to use this character that I don't know how is this name, but yeah, you have to use it. And the last one is install. In unit, we are going to cover just information. Is not important it's not vital at all. For example, I can use my Node.js web server. The other one is after this, sometimes static information that I'm not really good at all that what we are using it, but it's recommendable using in this file. We are going to use in service maybe the whole params that we are going to use to handle this. So in this case, we are going to use a start, and this is important for this time that this is the command that we are going to use to execute the Node.js web server, and it's important to handle the location and handle the process or the command we are going to use. To handle this, okay, first of all, I'm trying to execute another instance of Alacrity without use the shortcut, because the last time I used the shortcut and my system just freeze. But that does not happen all the time, but the last time happened, so I am going to open the terminal in another way. So it's important to remember that once we use a user session, we have something called the path. The path is just like a shortcut that allows to execute programs without specify the whole location of that binary of the executable file. For example, Nodejs. I can execute Nodejs, and maybe if I don't pass an argument, I am going to execute the or the relp. There is the runtime. I don't know that I can. I don't know what is stand relp, but it's something that allows me to execute in a live session a JavaScript code. And as you can see. But this is something that I can use because I'm using I already told you, I am using a user session. But if I see the path is just something that tells to the system, hey, look for when the user use a certain command that we don't, when the user use something that this, the first argument on a terminal, that means we are using a command. In my case, this doesn't exist because after I execute this inside quotation mark command, the system look for this executable in whole the path. Maybe go to the bin ban, go to this one. Well, this is okay. FEM is go to this one, go to this other one, and maybe the most important are user bin, user s bin, and go to each location or each path looking for the this executable. It maybe binary doesn't exist with the name this. Well, the system just will throw this command not found. So once we execute a node, is because the binary is host on one of them, and maybe the idea is pretty simple. I already know that is host in user bin, but we can use which command to know where is the binary. So let's use which node, and as you can see, depends, because I'm using a three-party tool, but the end location of node is user bin node. For example, user bin node. And as you can see, I already execute node, but I'm using another tool that is called FNM, that is just a version manager that allows me to change the node version. But as you can see, I'm using the 20, that is the last LTS. Oh well, I don't remember at all, but yeah, we can use something like that. Well, depends on the tool, because if I using FEM and I used LS, I can see that we have the latest 2022. That is the latest, so it's something that I have to how can I say this? I have to handle this. So the last one I have to use is this one, and maybe if we execute again, we are using LTS. But another important is know where is the executable about this, because for example, as you can see, I'm using the 20 because this was the first time that I execute Node.js. But yeah, this depends on the tool that are you using. For example, if I use which again, maybe we are going to see another identifier. Let me see, use right there. Okay, well, it's not. Well, this is something that I have to handle on my own. So just to be secure at all, I'm going to use the /user/b/node. Doesn't matter if it maybe is an outdated version, but depends on the depends on the binary you are going to use to execute the tool. So in my case, I'm going to use user bin node, And after that, we are going to keep the whole path from the, or well, yeah, for the source code. In my case, or a way to know where we are is maybe go back to the folder and use print working directory, and we can use this. But we are going to change this in the future, so handle that server. And the last one is, let me see because I don't remember, server.js. So this is the final command that we are going to use to execute this. Also, we can maybe handle the working directory just for metadata information, working directory, and use again this one. And maybe the important option are restart always. The other one is user. We can use or on user, but the recommendable is use the default user that allows to handle the service and daemons, that is www-data. And the environment is also useful because allows to, for example, use port 33,000. That's it. Maybe we can also configure logs and more, but the idea is just use that basic option. And the last one is wanted by, and use multi-user target. That maybe is used for all the users in the system or on the system. So once we already have the file, we are going to change the permissions to make it executable. So sudo hmode atc, web server, web server, web server service. And after that, we have to move this file to a certain location that I am going to tell you. That is atc systemd/system, and we have to move this configuration to that file because after that we are going to use a tool or command called systemctl that will recognize the configuration file only if we have the file inside that folder. So let's move this file, web server. Also, we can create hyperlink, but in this case, to make it simple, I'm just move the file. So in this case, I'm going to use atc systemd, and after that system, and I think that's it. Okay, I have to use sudo, so excuse me, and that's it. And after that, we are going to use the systemctl daemon reload. And once we execute this, systemctl have to know what I'm talking about when I tell them, hey, I am using the web server service. So let's give it the information. For example, I can use, for example, systemctl status and talk about server. Oh my goodness, I almost have a heart attack because if my computer freeze again, I don't know why I don't know what I'm going to do. So web server service, as you can see, this is complete or autocomplete using the tab tool. So maybe if I ask about that, as you can see, we have information about the process. For example, the description, my Nodejs web server that I already specify, the location, the status disable and also disable, the well is the service and more. As you can see, the process is inactive, almost dead, because we are not execute. So there are two different ways to execute or start the daemon, because we can start the process but not the daemon. That means that if I execute the process, I'm just going to execute the process itself, but once I restart my computer, the process won't be executed again because it's not a daemon at all. So let's execute the process not as a daemon, just like as a process. So the command is sudo systemctl start. The other one, to execute or turn on the daemon, is enable, that we are going to use after that. So let's start and use the web server.service. And as you can see, the server has to be working, and the better way to prove that is using the web browser. But as you can see, my web browser is not handle it so well. So let's see what's happened. The other way to just look for is execute status again and see what's happened, and we have information just right there. So okay, well, after a pretty interaction, let's continue with the video. If something goes wrong, let's see the process logs using the journal CTL tool. So I'll execute journal CTL u, and then the process name is web server, and let's see what's happened. In my case, I'm just only see file to determine a user's credential. Maybe this could be thanks to that I didn't change the www. Let me see. So I think the user doesn't matter at all, because it's just for handle permissions. So in my case, in my system, I didn't have the www hyphen data, so I just use my current user, that is Chris. And remember that every time that you change the .service file, you have to execute a daemon reload again. So I just change www hyphen data by Chris. So as you can see, we have the process active, but the service of the daemon is not active at all. It's just disabled. But as you can see, I have a PID, I have tasks that execute by that process, the memory or the current memory used by that process, and the peak, and the CPU time used, and more. And as you can see, the server is executing. And if I use localhost, and as you can see, we have the server express, it's executed successful. So how we can enable the daemon? That's easy. Just we have to execute, instead of start, use enable. And once we enable, we see that we create a symbolic link and more that allows to active the daemon. And if we use the information again, as you can see, we have service enable. That means that we have the daemon active. Maybe if you're asking about how to stop the process but not the daemon, we have to use a stop. So I can use, instead of start, that is to start the process, we can use a stop. That means we stop the process but not the daemon. So my web server is not on, by the daemon is already on, and that means if I restart my computer, the web server will be executed again. So the other way is just use, as we use enable, we are going to use disable. And that's it, that's all. So remember, start, stop, enable, disable. And but after that, I want to show you the difference using the status. And as you can see, the active, the state is inactive. That, as you can see, we can see the duration and more, but and also the PID. But this is kill. But we see the daemon is enabled, still enabled. So we can stop that, or disable the service. Use disable just right there. And as you can see, we remove this one about the symbolic link using this. Maybe it's just like a shortcut. We move the service to another directory that allows to enable the daemon. So that's it. Maybe a recommendation that I want to give you is move the source code or the application itself to maybe more secure directory. I highly recommend move the application to two different directories, and depends on what directory you are going to move your application. Also, you have to modify the .service file. The two directories that I highly recommend to move your application are slash bar www, yeah, in this case web server, the Nodejs web server. So you have to save your application on www. Well, it's very different that what you can pronounce W in English or W in Spanish, but you already know what I'm talking about. And the other one is or the I recommend at all, because www is for me is like a page or something like that. And the other one is OPT, and in this case a web server. So the idea is just move to each application directory to OPT, and that means that we are going to save our application, because if you left your application on the user folder, maybe sometime the user can just remove it, and maybe the daemon doesn't or won't be work as well, because if we create the service, that doesn't mean that the program is still continue without the source code. The service just execute a command, and if the command go to this directory and the .server the .js doesn't exist, this will be this is going to fail. So the idea is just move to OPT, for example. So once you create that, maybe you can just modify, remember, ATC systemd system, and after that, in my case, web server dot service, and you have to change this, for example, to I don't know, OPT, for example, OPT, to right there, and OPT, and in this way your application will be safe and will be executed all the time. And as you can see, I just changed www hyphen data just for Chris, and all is working as well. And as you can see, I'm using the environment port 300 without using environment variables just right there. That is the way that have to be used, because you can also use environment. That is pretty useful to just inject that variables that maybe tend to change. So guys, I hope this video was helpful, and I see you in the next time. Bye bye.